Hey guys, how you all been? We're going to exclusively review Man of Steel. Check it out. A trailer for Man of Steel came out with the Dark Knight Rises print. I watched at the drive-in. My 5-year-old son was with me. Of course, I saw the trailer online before that, but there's just something majestic about watching the teaser trailer on the big screen. Needless to say, my son and I were just in awe and just so excited for the movie to be released. There were two prints of the same trailer with two different voiceovers from Jonathan Kent and Jor-el. Listening to them both, you just feel inspired and hopeful this movie is going to do Superman justice. If you've watched my other reviews on the past Superman films, you'd know how much Superman means to me. He helped me through a lot over the years. After watching Man of Steel for the first time, I couldn't believe it. They got nearly everything about that character correct. His look, his presence, everything a Superman should be. I love Christopher Reeve's Superman. His Superman is the one I turn to when shit gets complicated, but Henry Cavill's Superman is comic accurate. He embodies everything, and not just the good stuff, but also the conflicted mindset he has about who he should be, like everybody goes through. The layout of the film is much similar to the first two Reeves Superman films. They use them as a guideline and mash them together, and it works. As a logical standpoint, probably not so much. So much massive events happen in literally the same day, but it's a movie. But I love how every scene engages you. I did not feel bored watching this film, and I've seen it probably about 20 times now. The Krypton scene at the beginning is very much a shortened, more updated one from the original with Brando's Jor-el. This time it's Russell Crowe and does a fantastic job playing Jor-el, though his presence doesn't seem as superior as Brando's Jor-el. What comes to mind when I think about that is maybe Brando's version comes from more of an isolated planet, though technologically advanced. Maybe they were lacking in scientists, whereas Crowe's Krypton was just as populated as Earth and had many scientists that could have very well debunked Jor-el's findings. It's just a theory. Once Kal-El reaches Earth, they quickly jump to 33 years later, skipping all the years he learns his powers and struggles through his adolescence. As much as that isn't necessary anymore, it would have still been nice to see Snyder's fleshed out take on it, more so than a few backstory cuts that were otherwise still interesting, but I feel this Superman deserved a bit more of a backstory. Henry Cavill's Clark is first seen on a fishing boat off to rescue a group of roughnecks from an explosion on their oil rig. This is our first example of how strong Clark is as he holds up a 100-foot metal structure from falling on a helicopter full of men. Then he's a server at a local bar who witnesses a woman being harassed by a customer. As he steps in, we learn how strong his stamina is when he's pushed by an aggressive patron. It feels like an homage to a scene in Superman 2 when Superman became human and was helpless to defend himself, but here it's reversed and you can tell he's restraining himself hard. This is actually much better than just having him show off his powers with guns or explosions are aiming directly at him. It shows more of a realistic side and it directly instigates his emotions for a flight or fight scenarios. Some of these sequences drive his mind back to teenage years. A bus goes over a bridge with Clark and a bunch of its kids inside. Clark takes it upon himself to push the bus up from the water. For this, Clark, it felt more of an instinct rather than should I or shouldn't I save them. It's inspiring, especially this scene when he pushes the bus up on the hill. The back of the bus is open, revealing Clark had a handle on it. All these kids, especially Pete Ross and Lana Lang, who are barely referenced in the movie, make eye contact with Clark. The next scene, Martha and Jonathan have to convince the kids' parents that it isn't possible what Clark did. There are 3 more scenes as Clark as a boy. They're very short but emotionally impactful. The first hour jumps from heavy independent style filmmaking as well with moments of character development. It's good stuff, but at the hour mark, it really takes a turn into another more big budget smash with tons of CGI and over bloated action. In saying that, I don't mean to reject the film at all, but when we do meet General Zod in the film, automatically it turns into a superhero film, albeit a good one, but a little predictable. I don't think superhero films should always be action films. Superman the movie was never an action film. Neither were the ones that came after it, especially Superman Returns, though that doesn't mean Superman should go without the challenging foe. I think that's one thing the DCU struggled with in the very beginning with the first 3 that started, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Suicide Squad. The movies became more of what these characters look like and how they performed their powers and how many buildings collapsed. It also centered too much on their superhero characters rather than their alter egos. At least that's what I saw. Man of Steel was the closest of all 3 that got it right, but was still flawed. The action seemed too much like Transformers. It was just constant. Focus more on the positive side. Amy Adams was perfect as Lois Lane. She doesn't get a lot to do in Man of Steel, but rather than go for a damsel in distress, she's a lot more confident and gutsy than previous versions. She becomes part of the story in a way, not just the person who we follow as Superman saves the day. Also, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White was a great choice. Diane Lane, Kevin Costner seemed great, but obvious choices for Ma and Pa Kent. I liked how they added some new characters never portrayed on screen in Superman movies, like Steve Lombard and Fiora Ole. Michael Shannon's General Zod, he's great. I love his motivation. The fact that it's not about just taking over the world, but resurrecting Krypton, to having a purpose to serve, making empathizing for him a little bit easier. When the battle in Smallville and Metropolis happen, there are great action pieces. It's high-octane energy, summer fun stuff. And I think out of all the Superman movies that have been released before Man of Steel, not one film actually had him punch an opponent. The first time that happened in the theater in 2013, the audience just cheered. Of course, it's that scene where he defends his mother by grabbing Zod and punching him while they soar through a cornfield. When that scene happens, the whole movie then turns into this action upon action. It's all good stuff, but I think the action could have just been left for the fight between Zod and Superman in Metropolis. I think Smallville scenes could have been better utilized for more character development on Clark's, Pete Ross's, and maybe Lana Lang's characters. As he comes back to visit his mother, the less action, the better. The fight between Superman and Zod would feel more deserving. Instead, by the time we get to the final fight, it does feel a bit overdone, but well worth it when we get to the final moment, where Kal-El has no choice but to snap Zod's neck in order to save a family trapped in a corner from being obliterated by heat vision. I appreciated this scene a lot. It really brings him down to a more humane level. The look on his face when he realizes that Zod was the last Kryptonian besides himself. When he screams in agony at that fact, you get the sense that they really are going to explore the man's psyche in future installments. The overall film I enjoyed quite a bit. It ain't perfect. That's what I think WB has a problem accepting. Out of a Superman film, it's got to be this next 2001 Space Odyssey and make over $1 billion. But it doesn't have to do either of those right away. The money will come when the story comes. One Superman movie doesn't have to be great, but put 3 or more together, and that can be great as long as the filmmakers are telling a story from their heart. But that's all I got. Thanks for watching, and please share. If you agree or disagree, put a comment down below me.